Welcome to the 2021 Nautilus Book Awards Author Spotlight Series. I'm your host, Christine Upchurch. Now celebrating 21 years of honoring better books for a better world, Nautilus Book Awards continues to embrace books from a wide spectrum in the publishing industry. Books which radiate hope and wisdom. Books which nurture our interconnection and connect us together as individuals, as communities, and as planetary citizens. This is a vast conversation, one which is particularly crucial now more than ever before. Today, we are shining a spotlight on author Lise Deguire. She is the author of Flashback Girl, Lessons on Resilience from a Burn Survivor, a clinical psychologist in private practice. Severely burned at the age of 4, she spent most of her childhood in the hospital, undergoing reconstructive procedures. Dr. Deguire attended Tufts University, graduating summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. She earned her doctorate degree in psychology from Widener University. She has appeared on NPR, NBC, ABC, Fox, and Sirius XM. She has written for Psychology Today, Thrive Global, Tiny Buddha, and so on and so forth. She blogs about the resilience and is a keynote speaker about that topic. She is the proud author of a gold-winning book here with Nautilus Awards in the category of Memoir, small press or self-published. I would like to welcome author Dr. Lise Deguire, author of The Flashback Girl, Lessons on Resilience from a Burn Survivor. Lise, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just so excited to be with you and have the chance to talk about the book.
You know, I've read so many books along the way, and I tell you, I don't recall another book I've read where in the first couple of pages I already have tears streaming down my eyes. Your story is one of such horrific situation. It's a story of survival. It is a story of resilience, and it is both heartbreaking and heartwarming. Tell us a little bit about what happened that began your difficult journey in childhood.
Yes, I was 4 years old when I was burned in a fire that was accidentally set by my mother. Mm-hmm. And adding to that trauma, my mother left me in that fire to save herself. So I really only managed to survive because my father was able to finally get his way to me and rescue me out of this trapped situation that I was in. And at the end of, this sort of 90 seconds of horror, I was left with third-degree burns on 65% of my body. I lost my lip, my chin, my neck, my face was fused to my body, my arms were fused to my thighs. And that sent me into this, very, very long recovery process, which actually continues. I still continue to be in physical recovery from burns. I was in the hospital many years. Was in and out of the hospital for many years. And burn care at the time was effective enough to keep me alive, but incredibly primitive. So it was an incredibly difficult process. And I think I'll just stop there because I could just go on.
Right. And I've heard that there is no worse pain than burns. And, I've acted like a baby about a single burn on a fingertip. I cannot imagine what it does to your nervous system to experience such a large percentage of the body burn. But on top of that, to have felt not only neglected, but rejected by your mother, she basically said, "My life's more important than yours, daughter." As a mother, I don't understand that, but that was probably an incredible thing to have to process as a child.
Yes. And a fair amount of my story, like it starts off being about the fire and burn recovery, what all that is like. But then the story progresses and kind of follows me through the rest of my life. And one of the big journeys that I have been on is the journey to understand my mother for myself, not what she would like me to think about her, but what I myself realized to be true about her. And in that way, this book, I think, connects with many, many, many people who have had difficult parents, parents who've been neglectful, parents who haven't been able to be there for their children. You know, my mother meant to be there, but she really was not.
Right.
And I have been on a lifelong journey to understand that, to make sense of that for myself.
I think even if we can understand how limited our parents may be in terms of what they can offer us, it seems to me that we end up internalizing that we don't deserve to be loved if we weren't loved properly. How have you learned to love yourself in a way that you didn't get from your mother?
So that is one of the lessons that is in this book. And when I say the lessons, each chapter in the book, each chapter is about something. And then at the end, there's a brief lesson, sort of a standalone lesson for the reader that says, okay, reader, think about this for yourself. And that's the psychologist in me. You know, I'm not just a memoir writer, I'm also a psychologist. And that's the part of me that's saying, what can you learn from this, my dear reader? So one of the lessons in the book is that many people are disappointed by the relationships that we have with our family, husbands, parents, whatever. Sometimes those relationships are very disappointing. But there are plenty of other people out there in the world who can love us and care for us and help us grow and heal. And so to answer your question, I learned to be a healthy and confident and sane and stable person, partly because of the other people in my life, my brother, my grandparents, my plastic surgeon, Dr. Constable, and many, many friends who have been like family to me and continue to be like family to me for like decades. So that's one of the ways I healed. Certainly, I've also been in my share of therapy. I do therapy, and I've been a consumer of therapy, and I strongly recommend it for just about anybody, honestly. I think life is hard, and therapy can help us be healthier.
So there's so many things in your book which moved me, but there was a scene in your book that was particularly heartbreaking, and that was you as an adult, well into adulthood, when you were getting some more laser surgery done on your burns, and when you went to this place of childhood fear. Can you tell us a little bit about how that situation helped you to shift?
Yes, right. So when I was having my surgeries and my, like 40 or 50 surgeries as a child, the technology was good enough to keep me alive. And I'm very grateful for that. But the medical care at the time was not at all psychologically sophisticated. And there was really no recognition of like the fact that you were a child and maybe had special needs and regarded, maybe you needed some extra comforting or care. It was just very matter of fact, like we're doing this so you can get better and then you'll go home. And so consequently, along with everything else, I guess, I was really emotionally traumatized in the hospital repeatedly. And when I finally went back to get these really cool laser procedures that have very much helped the appearance of my scarring, the laser procedures are new. I only just started them. And when I went back, it was as if I was a 4-year-old again. Just the smells made me so upset that just being in the operating room, everything about it was so traumatizing. But what was different this time is that medical care has really advanced, and the team I worked with was so trauma sensitive and so attuned with the fact that I was scared, and always took their time to reassure me and help me feel like I was safe. They never minimized or made me feel like I was silly because I was traumatized. Back when I was little, it was sort of like, well, stop that, get over this, we're doing this. But now, at least the team that I work with could not be kinder or more grounding. And it's been very healing, both physically and also emotionally.
Yeah. And I think about you having had that need for every surgery when you were a child, and finally, well into adulthood, having that need fulfilled, and you express it so poignantly within the book. It really touched me. Would you be willing to read us a little bit from your book, please?
I would love to. So I'm going to read from a chapter that is called On Psychologists and Superheroes. And so it's about my work that I do now. The mystery of my life is why I am here and my brother is not. Further, after so much trauma, why am I thriving when many others aren't? This mystery beguiled me into the field of psychology, the study of the human mind. There, I thought I would find answers about human survival, fortitude, and failure. Instead, I learned about statistics, psychoanalytic theory, and behaviorism. The classes were interesting, but uninformative as to the central question in my mind. I became a psychologist to understand myself and my family. My training did not answer these questions, but it did lead to a rewarding career. I stayed a psychologist because helping people in pain sets my heart soaring. When a new client comes to me weeping and hopeless, calm assurance fills my chest. I sit with their distress, the smoky haze of my own loneliness creeping out toward them. I know they will get better. Even if their suffering is just to be endured, I feel hope for their future. The hope pulls at me, tugging me like an ocean tide. My client can't feel the hope yet, but I can. Frequently, people ask me if being a psychologist is depressing. No, it is not. Not for me. I have treated clients who were instantly quadriplegic, dying of cancer, who just lost their beloved son. To me, these dark places are just where we start. Yes, life couldn't get any worse. That also means it will probably get a lot better. I can guide them to a better place. I whisper, I see a glimmer of light here. Follow me. I lead them to a dark underground cave, a flickering candle in my hand. They follow me, scrambling over the rocky path, jumping over the hidden aquifers. I follow a faint light. They follow me. Eventually, we emerge out of the black cave together, stepping out into the warm rays of sunshine. Other psychologists are more gifted in technique. I know psychologists who are better read, who do research, who present nationally. I read and I present, but I am a slacker too. I could work harder. My gift is not academic. I am still the younger sister of the genius. My gift is that I know the way through the dark cave of suffering. I have traveled this dark cave many times myself, with my own therapists as my guides. I learned the way back and forth over the rocky path and the lurking dangers, past the sinkholes and the snakes. Now I can get a person back and forth safely. That's my job.
That is so beautiful. So beautiful. And any client would be lucky to have somebody like you hold their hand through their issues. I'm really curious if you would share with us about how you titled your book, why you called it Flashback Girl.
Yes, I love this story. This was a very big surprise to me. And actually, this is how the story begins in the book. I discovered 50 years after the fire, I started to I kind of just started to poke around on the internet. It was the 50th anniversary of the fire, and I was sort of like, grimly sentimental about it. And I was looking it up, and I found this article that said that my fire was started by a household solvent, a highly flammable household solvent. And I'm like, wait a second. My mother said this fire was started by lighter fluid. But it turns out it wasn't. She had mistakenly used this highly flammable household solvent, lit it on fire, and it exploded. And that's what happened. I never knew that. So 50 years later, this is what I found. And that sent me down this long rabbit hole of like, wait a second, what happened to me again? And I contacted the lawyer who had represented us back in the day when this fire happened. And I called, and unfortunately the lawyer himself was dead, but his brother was still there. And I said, hello, I'm Lisa Deguire. Your brother represented me in this case in 1967. And there was this pause, and he goes, are you the Flashback Girl? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you're the Flashback Girl. We talk about your case all the time. So my case, it turns out, was kind of famous as a consumer product safety case, which I never knew.
Oh.
The title, I mean, what a better title is that? Because flashbacks, of course, so it's the flashback of the fire. It's called a flashback fire, the kind that happened to me. Plus flashbacks, we talk about that emotionally. We have flashbacks. Plus, the flame reference.
Yeah. And yeah, you're a type of superhero, aren't you? Flashback Girl.
Well, my mind went to that in a kind of a humorous way, like, because that sounds like that does sound like a little superhero. So in my mind, I have a little, superhero avatar and everything, and I think, superheroes are fun, but to me, superheroes are people who have gone through tremendous things, who come out of them with great gifts, able to help other people. And I know many real life superheroes. And I guess maybe to some people, I might be one of those people, but I know many other superheroes too.
So as a superhero and as a super survivor and thriver, do you have some words of wisdom for other people who've experienced other types of trauma in their lives?
Yeah. And, we could talk about this for an hour, but I won't talk about it for an hour. What I would say is that one of the major reasons why I wrote this book is to share with people the fact that a person can go through horrible, horrible, horrible things. And you could be, at one time in your life, the most unfortunate person you've ever known. Because at one point, that really was me. And if you have hope and you keep working on it and you get yourself help and you try very, very hard for a pretty long time, you can still build yourself a great life. And that's my story. It can be done. It might take you a long time, but it can be done. And I think in general, in our world right now, we don't have a lot of stories about people being very honest about being incredibly unfortunate. There's a lot of like, oh, I'm great on Facebook and everything's perfect for me. But you know what? Our lives are nothing like perfect in reality. And so I think that it's when we can share the stories of who we really are and what we've really gone through that we can give other people hope that they too can survive unsurvivable things.
Mm. And there was something about the way you untangled the relationship with your mother from the doctorate in psychology woman who has done so much healing that I think can illuminate for many people how they can process some things from their own childhood. It was so well done. Mm. Lise, thank you for writing this book. I highly recommend it. It's a very powerful testimony in healing and growing and thriving. And yes, there's another step that you've done, and that is sharing. So I want to thank you for that. Again, Nautilus Award was gold, and the book is entitled Flashback Girl, Lessons on Resilience from a Burn Survivor. Thank you, Lise, for joining us here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my honor.